All right, we're gonna try this again. So this is my first time doing YouTube lives, and I did a YouTube live and it appears that it did not work. So we're gonna do this again so that those of you who weren't able to jump on live can see the recording of what we did. So take two, here we go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk a little bit about understanding the US National Airspace System for remote pilots. So this is going to be relevant to you if you are flying drones, if you are in the United States, and if you are interested in just learning a little bit more about how the airspace works in the United States. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go over my PowerPoint here. I have a nice slide that I would like to share with you guys. So let's see. We're going to go to this slide right here. So this slide right here that you can see is the National Airspace System, sort of looking at it from like a lateral point of view. Okay, so what it shows is all the different classes of airspace. You've got Class A or Class Alpha airspace up at the top from 18,000 feet MSL or mean sea level to flight level 600, which is 60,000 feet. Class A airspace is not a space that you will be operating your drone as a remote pilot. And then you have Class B, which is Class Bravo airspace. This is going to be airspace around larger metropolitan areas, Chicago, LA, New York, Miami, large metropolitan areas. These are really busy airports. And so what you can see there is it looks like an upside down wedding cake. You'll hear that term a lot in aviation as you're talking about airspace, is that it's an upside down wedding cake. So you've got the inner circle. You've got the inner circle that is extends all the way down to the surface of the ground. And then as you go up in altitude, the airspace, the circle, the radius of the airspace extends out in the next level of the wedding cake, or the next step of the wedding cake. And then as you go up even higher in altitude, that airspace extends out even more, okay? So Class B airspace, again, busy metropolitan areas. You need authorization from air traffic control to fly in there. You're not going to call air traffic control. I'm going to show you guys how to do that in just a little bit. But you do need air traffic authorization to fly in Class Bravo airspace. Then you have Class C or Class Charlie airspace. This is going to be some like the mid-sized metropolitan areas, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, etc. These are going to be, they're larger metropolitan areas, but not quite, as big as Chicago, LA, that kind of thing. They have radar services, but again, we've still got that upside down wedding cake. And then Class D is Class Delta airspace. This is going to be airspace around smaller cities, but there's still an operating control tower at those airports there. So Class Delta airspace is another type of airspace that you would need airspace authorization to fly your drone in. And then you have Class E airspace, which is sometimes you'll see an airport that is, maybe you live in a not in a huge, metropolitan area, right? You might have an airport, but there's not a control tower there. Sometimes people might think that because there's no control tower there, that it's uncontrolled airspace, but that is not necessarily true. There are airports that have an instrument approach for manned aircraft pilots to use, but there is no control tower. So they are still talking to air traffic control. They're just talking to somebody somewhere else. So just because an airport does not have a control tower doesn't mean it's not controlled airspace. So in that case, you would have to have airspace authorizations to fly in Class Echo airspace. You as a remote pilot are going to be operating here in Class G or Class Gulf airspace under 400 feet AGL. So in uncontrolled airspace, you can fly. You don't need an authorization from the FAA. There are other things you want to take a look at, things that like certain state and local laws. Is it a no drone zone? That kind of stuff. There's certain guidelines that you need to follow there. But generally, you're going to be operating in Class G airspace under 400 feet AGL. So this is what the airspace system sort of looks like, looking at it, laterally, looking at it like, from the side view, okay? And then, so those are the different classes of airspace. But then if we go here, here's a list of different, let's see, I need to move this out of the way here so you can see a little bit better. There we go. And then I'll move me. So these are different types of special use airspace. So you have different classes of airspace, but then you also have different types of special use airspace. So this is going to be airspace where, for whatever reason, the activities that are happening within that airspace need to be confined, okay? So there's going to be things like prohibited and restricted. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Flights are prohibited or flights are restricted, areas like Washington, D.C., that kind of thing. Then there's warning areas. There's things going on there that you need to be aware of. Military operations area, sometimes called a MOA, those are areas where the military is doing generally like aerial training activities. They're going to be doing high-speed aerial training activities, but at a lower altitude. So they need to make sure that civilian aircraft know that they are doing stuff. So you need to be aware of that as well. And then there's alert areas and controlled firing areas. So again, along with the different classes of airspace, we've got the different types of special use airspace as well. So let's go to my browser now. I want to show you a couple of different websites that are going to be very helpful for you as remote pilots. So the first one here is called SkyVector. So you can get to it, just go to skyvector.com. I'll put a link in the description here below. This is the U.S. airspace system. These are the charts that manned aircraft pilots use to be able to navigate through the U.S. airspace system. So what you see here is what's called the VFR charts. They are the visual flight rules charts. So these are used by manned aircraft pilots. They're looking out the window to navigate. They're not navigating by instruments. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just zoom in. It can be a little overwhelming at first. Don't let it scare you. Don't let it intimidate you. I'm going to show you a couple different resources to make it a little bit more simpler for you. But this is a good way to just sort of see. We were looking at airspace from the side. Now we're looking at it from the top down. Okay. So we're going to come up in here into Northeast Wisconsin, and we're going to start right here. This is Appleton Airport right here. You see the blue dotted lines right there. That means it is Class Delta airspace. So that Class Delta airspace extends all the way out here. So you might think you're going to come over here and fly your drone and take some pictures of this, the riverbank right here. You think you might be far enough away from the airport, but by looking at this, you're not. So you need to get an airspace authorization to be able to fly in that Class Delta airspace. And if I zoom out a little bit here and go up to Green Bay, this is the Class Charlie airspace. So you see the solid magenta line here, and we've got two circles. So the inner circle is that circle that goes all the way down to the ground, and then that outer circle is as you go up in altitude, the outer circle comes out more, okay? So you might want to fly up and down this riverbank here and take some pictures as well. You think you might be far enough away from the airport, but you're not. You want to make sure to get that airspace authorization. Then if we come up here to the Rhinelander Airport in northern Wisconsin, you can see the dotted magenta line around the airport. So this is an airport. It's a Class Echo airport. So what that means is there is an instrument approach procedure for manned aircraft pilots to be able to get into the airport. They're talking to air traffic control, but they're not talking to a controller at that airport. There is no control tower at that airport. So if you, as a person, are walking around and looking at the Rhinelander Airport, and you might think, well, there's no control tower here, that means it's uncontrolled. That's not necessarily true. So if you were to fly inside these magenta lines right here, you would need an airspace authorization. And you can see as you go further out here, the diameter of that airspace, or the outer limits of that airspace, is extended out. Then let's go down to Chicago right here. Now this airspace gets very complex. There's a lot going on, as expected. But the Chicago airspace here is this blue solid line, and we've got all the different circles. So you can see, again, inner circle goes all the way down to the surface. You got the runways right here. Inner circle goes all the way down to the surface. You go up in altitude, the wedding cake steps out. You go up in altitude, wedding cake steps out. Up in altitude, wedding cake steps out. So we're looking at this same airspace, just from the top down, okay? So you want to make sure that if you wanted to fly your drone anywhere in this area here, you want to make sure that you are not in the Class Delta or Class Bravo airspace. Also, it gets a little confusing because you have the Midway Airport here. Looks like there's a TFR happening right now. It's a temporary flight restriction. says it's a baseball game, Brewers at the White Sox. So you cannot fly your drone there. In fact, nobody can fly there right now. And so the airspace can get confusing. There's smaller airports here. This can be a little bit difficult to read. So what I wanted to do is show you a couple different things that make it a little bit simpler for you. So the first is UAS Facility Maps. So if you just type into Google FAA UAS Facility Maps, it will come right up in Google for you. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on this link here, and it's going to tell me I'm being taken away from FAA.gov. And what this is going to do is it's going to sort of simplify the airspace for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that same area in Wisconsin. These lines here are just broken out by the control centers throughout the country. And let's see here, let's zoom in. So same airports, okay? So this is the Appleton Airport right here. It is red. This is the Green Bay Airport. It's green. Here's the Milwaukee Airport. It's green. Rhinelander is green. So what that means is the FAA is trying to set up the LANCE system. So by trying, I mean that they're implementing it. So what that means is that you would be able to use an app called Kitty Hawk, and you could request a near real-time authorization to fly in that airspace. So if I wanted to fly in Green Bay, I wanted to fly, up and down this river right here, and I wanted to just take some pictures or whatever I'm doing. What I can do is I can request a LANCE authorization to be able to fly in that airspace. So if you look at these numbers here, it's very interesting because you can see the zeros. That's right where the runways are. So zeros mean you're not going to get an automated authorization at all. Like it's not authorized at all to get an automated authorization. But if you were to fly in this grid right here, you could get an automated authorization up to 200 feet. Right here is 50 feet. And then we extend out and we get out to 400 feet. So the further out you get from the runways, the higher up you can get an automated, nearly instant authorization using the Kitty Hawk app. So same thing with Rhinelander. It was green. You can do that. You can use the Kitty Hawk app. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second here. But then Appleton, just the red just means it hasn't rolled out yet. So like I said, the FAA is rolling this out. It's not rolled out to all the airports just yet. So in order to get an airspace authorization, so say I wanted to fly along this riverbank right here and take some pictures for my drone, what I would need to do is go to this website here called the FAA Drone Zone. So it's just faadronezone.faa.gov. I can go ahead and log into my account, and in there you can see your different waivers and authorizations. I don't have any right now, don't need any, but this is where waivers are going to be anything like that you need to waive one of the Part 107 regulations, like flying over people or something like that. And then authorizations are going to be your airspace authorization. So you can request an airspace authorization in here. So in the Appleton Airport, if I needed to fly, in this airspace, I'm not going to call air traffic control. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here to FAA Drone Zone and submit a request for airspace authorization. All right. So the Before You Fly app, I just type in Before You Fly into Google. If I go to the Before You Fly app, this is an app that the FAA has created in partnership with Kitty Hawk, which I mentioned earlier. And what it is it's to show you some of the different airspace in which you're trying to fly in. So it's an app, so I'm not going to bring it up on the computer, but you can see some screenshots here. So for example, if I'm in Oklahoma City, it tells me, it picks up your location based off your phone, and you can move it around too. So let's say you're trying to plan a flight for later on, you can move it around. And then it'll tell you you're good to go. There's nothing here that, as far as the FAA is concerned, there can be other things, but there could be the things that you need to take into consideration, but from the FAA's perspective, you're good to go there. So this one right here is an example of what it looks like in Washington, D.C. This is the National Mall, the White House area. It says, do not fly, flights are prohibited. It's all red. It means not going to fly here, right? There's a permanent temporary flight restriction there. And then, it gives you some of the reasons why. So it says, do not fly, and if you bring the card up, it gives you some of the reasons why you cannot fly, some of the things you need to take into consideration there. So this is the Before You Fly app. So this really just shows you the airspace. If you want to get a a LANC authorization, you see right here it says it does not allow users to obtain airspace authorizations. What you can do is you can download the Kitty Hawk app. So that is the app then, works very similar to Before You Fly, but that is the app where you can go ahead and request an airspace authorization. So if I wanted to fly in one of these green areas, I need an airspace authorization. What you do is you log into the app, you click on the grids that you want to get an authorization for, and then you submit it, and then it in theory comes back in near real time for you, okay? So the Kitty Hawk app is going to be great for that, and then any airspace that's red like this, you're going to use the FAA Drone Zone website in order to do that. Okay, so those are the couple different things that are going to make it a little bit easier for you to understand airspace and where you can and cannot fly your drone. You're going to use the UAS Facility Maps. You can use Before You Fly, and then you're going to use the Kitty Hawk app. SkyVector, this is something that I think everybody should know how to read. One thing you can do is just come here and look around. But one thing you can do is if I click on Chicago here, and then let's see, zoom out. So I zoomed out, and what I did is it brings up an image of if you were to purchase the printed version of this. So you can purchase these as printed, and pilots will take that with them in their aircraft with them as they're flying, right? What you can do then is look at the legend here. So if you go and you look at and you find different symbols, different things in here, and you're not sure what it is, all you have to do is come over to legend. It's just read the chart. Like everything is on the chart. So what I suggest you do just to learn a little bit more about SkyVector, I have some videos on my YouTube channel that can help you learn how to use SkyVector as well. But it's really just something you got to get in, look at it, and if you find anything, that's what you're Okay, and then the final thing I wanted to show you is my website. It's flyelectricmonarch.com. This is my website where I am putting all sorts of really great information about drones, remote pilots, drones and security, airspace, all that kind of stuff. So it's a blog that I started. I have videos in there from my YouTube channel. I've also got a podcast called Discover Drones. It's intended to be for those who are new to aviation through drones, and they're just, they want to get started. They don't know, some of it can seem overwhelming. The Discover Drones podcast is intended to help those of you just learn a little bit more about aviation. And so you can go look through my blog. You can look through the podcast episodes. I've got videos in there for my YouTube channel, etc. Then I've also got an online course that I am putting together. It's the Part 107 online course. You can sign up for the waiting list here, and this will be available soon. I am just about done with it. And so this is intended to be for those of you who want somebody to help just guide you a little bit more through the studying for the Part 107 exam. The FAA does give you everything for free, what you need to know. But then I put together this video course to help if you want somebody to just kind of explain this stuff to you in a little bit more detail. And then finally, if you go over here to shop, this is where I've put together a couple of different things for people, and I'm just adding things as I start creating them. So the first thing here is drone management binder. So if you're an enterprise drone operation, or if you're running drones as a business, that kind of thing, this isn't made for you. There's software out there that you can use to manage your drone fleet, but this is intended to be for teachers, STEM education clubs, Boys, Girl Scouts, that kind of stuff. It's a really nice Excel spreadsheet to help you manage your drone fleet and manage inventory, and maintenance, that kind of stuff. You don't need to spend a ton of money on software for that, so that's what that's for. This is just a fun little remote pilot flight logbook that I made for kids. You can get logbooks online for $10, $13, whatever. But this is really just, it's if you've got a class, an after school club, something like that, this is just, it's got room for like 10 flights in there that you can fill in. It helps them feel great. This right here is something that you may be interested in. This is the FAA Part 107 written exam what to study guide that I put together. It's a download, it's a PDF download, it's free. Again, the FAA puts together everything that you need to know for the Part 107 exam. It's all out there for free, but it's in multiple spots. It's kind of here and there and everywhere. So what I did is I just put it together in a PDF, just nice, easy to read format of like, okay, if you want to study this, go here. If you want to study that, go here, that kind of thing. And then finally what I did is I put together a course on airspace. This is intended to be for those of you who want to get a really deep dive in airspace so that you feel confident and that you're making the right decisions when it comes to your drone operation and that you are flying safely and responsibly in the National Airspace System. It's a 4-hour long course to help you learn how to read SkyVector and how to get airspace authorizations and use all the different apps and all that different kind of stuff. And so that's there. So as I am creating more stuff, I'm just putting it out here and hoping that it helps you. I'm listening to your feedback of the things that you're looking for, the things that you need for your drone operation, and then I'm creating it based off of that. So if there is something not on here that you want me to create, please tell me. I will work on it. I've got a couple things. I've actually got a whole list of things on my whiteboard right behind me here of stuff that I am going to be creating to put on here. So thank you for watching take 2 of the Understanding Airspace for Remote Pilots. I'm incredibly sorry for those of you that were waiting and it didn't work. So here's the replay for you, and we'll do better next time. Like I said, I practiced it a couple of times and it worked just fine. Just this one time, I don't know. So have a great night, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.